The 2023 May Conference Awards and Hall of Fame.
Participating in this year's Southern Conference. It's really appreciated. I'd like to start off by thanking Ken Andriano and the ACC staff. I'd like to welcome the Hall of Famers. Please stand up. Sorry, mouth full. Without these gentlemen, a lot of us would not be in this room, and USPTA Southern would not be where it's at in the USPTA hierarchy. So thank you, gentlemen. I would like to next thank all the state presidents. Can you please stand up for all of you who are here? Growing the game of tennis in each one of their states, and for all of you younger pros, you should be working to achieve state presidency and trying to get on the Southern board, because without the younger pros, we are not going to grow. Next, I would like the executive committee to stand up, please. USPTA Southern Committee. Without them, these conferences would not be as well attended and as well managed as they are. And last but not least, I want to thank Pat Whitworth, because without him steering the ship, so without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to the MC, Mr. Bill Riddle.
All right, folks, that was a little lukewarm with the applause there. If you only knew the backstory of how hard my agent had to work to get me back here this year after last year's performance, you would be jumping out of your seats. But I am excited to be back here. And I was very excited to see that all the Hall of Famers here were still able to stand up completely. Oh, okay. So here's the deal. Don't forget to scan for lunch. If you would, you just hover your phone right over the top of the green beans, and it'll work eventually, so you're going to get credit for it. The USPTA is cutting back a little bit, and so you're only going to get a couple of jokes this year due to budget cuts. So we're going to jump right. Okay, with that, then I'm going to go into where I was going to go originally. So a lot of you, or some of you maybe, have followed a little bit of my social media. You see me, I'm in the gym and working out. I'm trying to do better, and I'll tell you where it all started. This was a few years ago. I unbuttoned the top of my pants, and then the zipper just shot open. And I said, okay, I got to do something about this. So then I started my fitness journey. But that's all the jokes. We're moving on. All right. So, chapter presidents. We'd like to recognize each one of the state chapter presidents. If you would come on up in order, you're going to get a nice plaque, a handshake, and a photo with Tom. J.C. Freeman from Alabama. Big hand. Pat Malone from Arkansas. He could not make it, unfortunately. There was only one covered wagon coming east, so he is still back there. Dave Newark from Georgia. Tim McCullum from Kentucky, unfortunately could not be with us. He is still serving a 30-day sentence. No, I'm just kidding. He couldn't be here. Lindsey Mixon Kelly from Louisiana. Unfortunately, could not be here as well. John Wahlberg is a fantastic substitute. Does not look as cute in a dress, but come on up. Amelia Boyan from Mississippi is here. Where'd Scott go? Scott's here. I know he's here. Somebody check the buffet. Wow. Craig Wells from South Carolina. And the one and only Dan Beadle from Tennessee, but we're trying to trade him to play up for it. We'll take him for a player to be named later as well. So. All right, moving on. The executive committee. Our president, Tom Parks. Big hand. For the selfie. We're going to have Ken Andriano, our first vice president. Alan Jensen, second vice president. Jason Paisley, our secretary treasurer. The one, the only Bill Riddle. Director at large, Daryl Lewis, director at large, and our executive director, Pat Whitworth. Past president is Kevin Theos and Todd Upchurch. You get in on the photo as well, so come on up. Are we doing group photos or?
Let's just get everybody over here real quick.
Real quick. Oh, be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
Everybody got the memo where we're going. Except for Phil.
There's always that drama kid. Okay, and so what we'd like to do is if you received an award in 2022, we'd love for you to stand up for a quick round of applause. So all of our 2022 winners, you can see them on the screens there. So this will be bad. Trust me, they're remarkable people. Big hand. All right, and moving on. First of our Southern Division 2023 awards. The USPTA College Coach of the Year is Jim Turley. Is Jim here with us? No, he's not. He's not, so I'm making everything up then. Actually, Jim runs a college program at Texarkana. He is also runs a tennis complex there. He teaches about 32 to 36 hours a week. He coaches both men and ladies teams at Texas A&M Texarkana, which is an NAI school, which I need to meet him because we need to play. His number one doubles team won the ITA Gulf region this past fall, and his number one doubles team ended 2022 ranked 10th in the nation. So a big hand for Jim Turley. All right, our Southern High Performance Coach of the Year. I ran into this lady in the gym last night. Actually, I didn't run into her. She was stalking me, looking for ice. Walker Sahag. Presenter at numerous conferences all over, including the World Conference for USPTA, Louisiana State Players. She has top 20 rankings with so many guys and girls. Natalie, Sophia, Madison, there's literally like 9 pages of players up here that you've got ranked. She has literally done it all from a high performance standpoint, not only here in the South, but everywhere. So a big, big hand for Walker, please. All right. Our USPTA Southern Manager of the Year. Now, we wouldn't be in our jobs a lot of times without the great GMs that we work for. So Matthew Collins is the general manager of Chattahoochee Country Club. Is Matthew here?
Yes.
He is? Perfect. Oh, there he is. Awesome. All right. So he's been at this club, major component to the growth through the racket sports program at the club. He supported hiring 3 full-time tennis pros and pickleball. Initiated the addition of a standalone pickleball courts. How many were there? 4. Fantastic. He promotes continuing education with his staff. That's huge. Big hand for Matthew Collins. All right, our USPTA Southern Assistant Pro of the Year, Mr. Pete Pastor. Now, Pete is at the North Atlanta Tennis Academy, teaches multiple sessions of the Tennis Apprentice program that's out there. Some of you, if you don't know anything about it, check out somebody from the USTA, they'll help you out. He formed many USTA leagues through the Tennis Apprentice program, which is what you're supposed to do, right, Bill? He started a program to recycle old rackets and balls and nets. He gives them to the YTEF and USTA Atlanta programs. Fantastic. Coached the boys varsity at Riverwood High School. And they doubled their win total from the previous year under his guidance there. He also leads Coach for Kids Zone, an academy which is in North Atlanta. So big hand for Pete Pastor, if you come on up. A lot of people don't know, but he also goes to the same barber as Alan Jensen. So, all right, we're over the joke list now. All right, our next award winner, Southern Industry Excellence Award, Mr. Mark McMahon. Most of us have met this man, and as we know, he is a leader in the tennis industry. He is a USPTA Master Professional, CEO for McMahon Careers, placing professionals in top jobs around the country. He helped create the CRSE Certified Racket Sports Executive Program, and he is a member of a past national board member for USPTA. So he's not with us. I think he's still in Italy, trying to get back over here. So big hand for Mark McMahon, please. All right, moving on. Teaching Professional of the Year, Mr. Mike Pollard. Is Mike with us?
Mike could not come here.
Mike could not make it. All right, he is originally from Hilton Head, South Carolina, teaching 35, 40 hours a week of group and private lessons. He has over 30 USTA teams per year. That's huge. Maintains 6 courts as well as the pickleball courts at the facility. He is the head coach for the May River High School girls and boys team. It's a no-cut program. If you don't know anything about no-cut programs, look it up. It's fantastic for high school tennis. Co-president of the Hilton Head Pro League, which is fantastic. They're in Hilton Head getting teaching pros like us out on the court playing. Great concept, right? He hosts 2 charity events a year. Big hand for Mike Pollard. All right, now, Mentor of the Year, Brandon Black. He's actually a friend of mine from Nashville. He's a teaching pro at Hillwood Country Club. He's been there for like the last 25 years. He leaves a positive influence on his staff, always helping and giving advice to the staff that they have there. They have actually 2 facilities there in Nashville, 2 different locations, an indoor facility and an outdoor facility. And he's also been very helpful and positive in the Nashville community around the courts, helping other pros and helping USTA with programs and whatnot. So, big hand for Brandon Black. And Nashville's so bad he couldn't get out. All right. Alan Henry, Southern Professional of the Year. I really would love to do this one off the notes for Dan, but I'm not going to do that because I love Dan. He is actually one of the people that's on the USTA National Cardio Tennis Trainer Team. And I know this for a fact that I've spent time with Dan at these trainings and workshops and traveling on the road and whatnot, and he puts a ton of effort and energy into cardio tennis, does a fantastic job with it for many years. He helped present cardio tennis workouts in the mornings. They were at 7 a.m. When you guys were still coming in from the casinos or waking up, Dan was out there on the court leading cardio tennis while we were in New Orleans and doing a great job. He's assisted Michael in training courses for Ferris State University and is the current USPTA Tennessee president. He also serves as the Ferris State PTM Advisory Board member. Huge hand for Dan Beadle. Done this in record time, but I'm going to slow down for the last one because this is a buddy of mine. You're all buddies, but this is a good buddy. He's let me stay at his house before. So when you let me stay at your house, then we'll be good buddies. How about that? So the Fred Burdick Pride of the South Award, very prestigious award. Mr. Darrell Lewis, Aussie by birth, but been here in the States for a long, long time, and we can't get rid of him. He is the director of tennis at the Old Town Country Club over in North Carolina. He is also the pickleball czar for USPTA Southern. If you don't know anything about pickleball, you need to talk to this man. He will get you set up. He is a Southern board member, past president for North Carolina USPTA. He is a master professional, and I'll say this because he helped me through that process. Anybody looking to become a master professional, you need someone in your corner helping you guide through that, and he was very helpful to me and others in that process. He was a Georgia Pro of the Year, GPTA Tennis Director of the Year. He won the USPTA Charity of the Year past winner, and he's been a frequent speaker at a number of coaching and tennis industry workshops and conventions around the country. He's a good dude. So, Mr. Darrell Lewis. All right, and with that, remember I work off tips, so I'm going to pass the jar around. Feel free to just contribute. That concludes my portion of this. I'm going to turn it over to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Pat Whitworth.
All right, I think this mic has stopped working again. I know Kevin Theo said it worked earlier today, and it's not working anymore. Is there a Hall of Fame? Okay. So first off, Fred Burdick sends his apologies that he could not be here today. He is in charge of our Hall of Fame along with Tom Douglas, who is still in Italy. He and Kimmy stayed in Italy to do some extra touring around with the McMahons and others. And our other one was Reedy Tony, who was trying to get here, but was not able to be here today. So he sends his apologies. Fred said just a little bit of a bug is bothering him, and he didn't want to travel, so he apologizes, wishes he was here. It's been a long time since he has been here. By the way, it looks like we're going to be honoring Todd Upcharge today.
Really? Real had something to do with it.
I did not.
So, interesting. From the man that put this together that hates when you would substitute an A and an E in his name. I will tell that on Alec, because I know he does not like that. I was very proud to be able to introduce Todd today, and I was surprised that he chose me, but happy that he chose me. I know he had a list of others that he could have selected, so I'm happy to do it, and I'll try to keep it under 45 minutes. And I have a little list of things, Todd, because I didn't want to forget too many things. And I learned this just the other day from Todd, that he came on the North Carolina board at 29 years old. I think were you the president at 29?
Yeah.
As a 3-year member. So unfortunately, our room does not have enough younger people in here, but we need those younger people, as Bill mentioned earlier, we need them, and Tom mentioned earlier, we need them to be involved and to get into this. That's amazing, 29 years old that he got involved in this. I have been fortunate to meet Todd's kids, Noah and Reese, both when we had a conference in Charlotte, and when they came down with him to Orlando to our executive committee meeting last year. Now look at what a fun spring break this is for a kid. We have a national board meeting down in Orlando. We're in meetings for 2.5 days, and his kids get to come along with him. What are they going to do all day? Well, they went and hung out at the National Tennis Center. We got together later on, and we played tennis and pickleball and padel at the National Tennis Center. They were right in the middle of it. You can have a conversation with these kids. Of course, now Noah's just about to go into college. He just signed on with Gardner-Webb to play soccer there. But Todd as a dad has been pretty phenomenal. As you know, for those that have kids, which I do not, dogs but not kids, it's not easy to coach your kids. And he has coached his kids in tennis, but I remember him telling me along the way, and by the way, when he was president, we probably talked every other day. I knew the right times to call. He'd say, yeah, Noah and I are going out at 5 in the morning to work on, where he wanted to work on something. Now, Todd doesn't push Noah to do that. His son Noah asked Todd, and Todd was always ready. Now, a month or two later, when Noah got tired of getting up, Todd wasn't pushing him. And that's kind of what Todd does. He's really good about just kind of, he's there, he's supportive, he's with you, very knowledgeable, but he's not going to push. He's not going to push on you, but he also kind of has a way to get things around to the way it needs to be. So that's always neat about Todd. Long-time board member, almost unfortunately for Todd, because the way it works from here, our president becomes the past president, and we had Lane Evans was our president. He moved in the middle of his term, so Kevin stepped up, took another 1.5 years. Todd was the past president. Then the nominating committee said, well, let's go ahead and put this board back on. So 2 more years, Kevin's our president, Todd's still the past president. Well, Kevin gets nominated into the national board. We don't have Kevin as the past president. It defaults to the previous past president. Todd's the past president again. I would say he probably has the record for the longest term as a past president, which is pretty amazing. But he's been very willing to keep stepping up and being a part of us and supporting and being and giving his leadership for us. This guy in his 30s was still highly respected in the industry. I mean, as a 30, 32, 33, 35-year-old, very respected. He gets a job, I believe this was still in his 30s, at Carmel Country Club as the director of tennis. This is one of the premier clubs in the country. And he got this job, and he worked hard. He did all the parts for it. I mean, he does his work behind the scenes. This fun guy that we all like to hang around, he's probably still up till 3 in the morning working, and then he's back up at 6 in the morning ready to go. That might actually be too late. But yeah, he was a director at one of the most prestigious clubs in the country. It's a sister club to Cherokee Town Club for those of us that are out of Atlanta. So at one point, he had a Hall of Fame general manager he worked with, and all I can say is the next general manager, Todd would probably not appoint him into the Hall of Fame. And they didn't quite see eye to eye on quite a few things. At one point, I remember Todd telling me, I'm going to leave my job. And it's like, really? You're at one of the most prestigious clubs in the country, and you're just going to leave? And he said, yeah, I said, I'm just not happy. I just can't do this. And so he leaves, and he starts over. And he has a talk he's given about pivot. You have to learn to pivot. Our career is going one direction, all of a sudden something happens, and you have to pivot a little bit. You have to pivot. We've all done it. We've all had to pivot, either day to day, week to week, or even in your career. Club changes, they get bought out by a company, it all just who knows. So he starts working, as Todd does, and he comes up with 3v3, which was a kind of a new league that he put together. That's gone over pretty well. But then he started Serve It Up. And Serve It Up does programming for basically into schools and in the younger ages. And he's got over 20 schools that he's been involved with. And this has just gone crazy. I mean, he's got, I don't know how you get the staff to do it, Todd, but he's got this going. And that's just become bigger than he can almost keep up with. He was at some of the public facilities, but he's kind of branched away from those, and now he's at 4 or 5 other clubs that he manages. So he's got a few things going on here. He's got all this going on. And by the way, his girlfriend lives in Atlanta. I don't know how that happened. He goes on one of the services you can do online. It says 50-mile radius to Charlotte. It is in Charlotte, North Carolina. 50-mile radius matches us up with somebody here. And ultimately, they're awesome together. And if Todd looks any slimmer than he used to be, she'll kill him. She is a demon. She goes to Disney and does all 4 races in a weekend, and that's a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, a marathon. And still is probably going through the parks all the time. So that's a lot. That's a lot to keep up with. But they're amazing together. So Todd kind of goes into the idea of be prepared, always be prepared, and just do it, which we hear from Nike. In fact, I showed up today without a tie. Guess who had an extra tie for me? Thank you, Todd. He had it. So yeah, we finally get rid. I mean, it's his last time on the board with us in Southern. So I mean, that's a lot about Todd and what we've known about him. But of course, it wouldn't be proper to not tell at least 1 or 2 stories on Todd. So, and they'll be pretty calm. I think Todd would probably tell this one on me. When we were on the board together, and I'm going to assume you were as the North Carolina president, and I don't know, I was probably on the Southern board at this time, and we roomed together. And I told you how Todd stays up, and he's always ready to go. Well, I wanted to watch the Braves, so we watched the Braves, and we chatted as we're rooming, and it gets on a little bit later, we're still chatting. It's 1 o'clock, we're still chatting. It's probably 2 o'clock, I'm still chatting. Todd's kind of trying to pass out. And finally, he just, I think, told me to shut up and I need to go to sleep. Because I don't do real well when we're off on trips and stuff, so I kind of stay awake almost the whole time. So it's become proper for me to actually not room with somebody, so that takes the break off everybody else. Another one was, and Bill Phillips brought this one up. We were talking about some things, and we were at the winter conference, which we did at the Memphis Racket Club, along with the pro tournament there. And we had a buddy there that came in, Dave Hagler, came in from California. And this just tells you a little bit about how competitive Todd is. And we all are pretty competitive. That's what we love to do this stuff. So we go, as you'll know, if you ever hang with me too long, we got to go someplace for dessert. And there was a Ben & Jerry's nearby. So we went to Ben & Jerry's, and as we're eating our ice cream, there's a big table that's a checkerboard. And the checker pieces are this big. So they're playing Dave versus Todd, because there's a challenge all the time. And I believe it was the manager of this place kind of walks by and looks over Dave's shoulder as they're playing and says, oh, you got that jump, that. And all of a sudden Dave is like, chunk, 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 chunk. You could see the steam coming off Todd's head. I mean, I thought he was going to get up and peg this manager. He was not happy to lose this. But that's how many of us are, but you'll see him get competitive, but you'll also see him throttle down. And I think that's something that we all need to learn, that if things aren't going just perfect, back it down, throttle it down, give it a minute. That's something we can learn from him that we all need to do. Well, I probably should call on a few people, but I'm not going to do it, Todd. But that is all I'm going to say for Todd. I'm just so proud of him, and he's just so deserving. I know it almost seems like he's too young to be here, but he's done so much in so few years. I can't wait to see what the next 5 and 10 years are going to be. And let's all congratulate Todd. Only one more story I probably should have told on Todd. He told me he was a 42. This guy's broad. I hope this will fit. It's actually a 43. I sized it up. I didn't wait on him. I sized it up just to hope it would work.
Wow. That was, I don't know who this guy is, upcharge, but that was a great introduction, Pat, so thank you. It's quite surreal to be up here and being inducted to the Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, and it was a pretty amazing phone call when Fred Burdick called me and told me that I was going to be honored this way. And, you know, I spent the first 20 years of my career becoming a master pro, doing all the things I needed to do to become a master pro, and that felt like a big accomplishment, and it was. But this really, I will say, humbled me when I found out, and it was pretty amazing. I hung up the phone from talking to Fred, and the first thing I thought to myself was, am I really old enough to really go into the Hall of Fame? And then I remembered, oh yeah, you've looked in the mirror lately, you're old enough to do it. So, but Pat kind of talked to it that. If you find anything out in life, and I found anything in life, is that you can't get there by yourself. There are so many people that I want to thank and that I want to share with, but you know, the term a long time ago is that it takes a village. And I think there's a lot of people that have been in my life, whether I knew that or not, that helped me out, or always had my back, and I really appreciate that. And I always would have to start with my parents. My parents were, they're just amazing people, and luckily I still have both of them in my life. And they have watched me play countless matches, and they drove me all over the place to go play. And my mom used to go, when I would go, have public courts across a really busy main road. And we would go up to the end of the main road, and I would ride my bike. I was probably 10 or 12 or something, and go meet a friend, but it was a pretty busy road. I wasn't, she was very protective. She rode her car behind me, and then when I was allowed to cross the street, she'd honk the horn, and I knew I could get across without getting run over. And then come up there about an hour later and bring us lunch and sandwiches, and we would play tennis all day on these public tennis courts. But they just always have been there to support me. I have to thank my dad for teaching me the slice backhand, not the actual nice slice backhand, but the one that was always a drop shot, because that's what his backhand was. So if I got really good at chasing drop shots, it's because he always hit that ball against me. But he really gave me the love for the game. We watched a lot of tennis on TV, a lot of McEnroe, a lot of Connors, a lot of Borg, all that growing up, and it was really great. They've always had my back, and you know, few things just want to bring up. In 1989 and 1990, I had 3 huge events in my life. In July of 1989, July 3rd, I had surgery to repair a brain aneurysm. And I was 16 years old, and at that age you're invincible. And I found out quickly that I was not. But it was unwavering. It was they were there. I went through that whole thing. A week later, after I got home, I went back in with spinal meningitis. Went through that for another few days. That was a lot of fun. And but all the time, never unwavering. In fact, my father had 2 slip discs at the same time, and drove over there to see the surgery, had my sister drive, and then took him back. So it was a pretty big thing. But that was the first thing. That was in July of '89. In April of '90, I was playing basketball in the gym, and somebody swept when I was up in the air. I had big ups, by the way. When I was up in the air, somebody swept my legs out, and I went head first into the floor. And when I sat up, I had just a huge gash and had 21 stitches that needed to be put in above my eye. It was April. Luckily, and again, things happen for a reason, there was an ambulance that was there, and they were teaching CPR to the teachers, and they went and grabbed them from the parking lot and brought them up and fixed me up before I went to the hospital. And then lastly, all within 12 months, mind you, just to tell you how big my parents were on all this, I was on my way to cap and gown practice in May, and turned in front of a car and hit it head on. And I totaled my car, I totaled her car. Luckily everybody was okay, but that was pretty amazing. So after all that, I said to myself, you know what, God might have a plan for you. He might be trying to keep you around for a reason, to be able to do something. So, I didn't know then what it was, but I definitely know now. And Steve Prefontaine said it best: to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. So I feel like I've been given a gift of teaching tennis, having tennis in my life. So I went to 2 years of college, and I was killing it. Not really. I think I was carrying about a 2.3 or 2.4 there, and came back home after my sophomore year and to my parents' house and sat down, and I was ready for it. I told my parents, I'm like, I don't think I'm going back to school in the fall. My dad was like, good. you're not doing great up there. And I thought he was going to be mad. Both my dad was a principal, mom was a teacher, and I thought, man, they're going to wreck me with this. And he says, what do you want to do? And I was 19. And I said, I want to be a tennis pro. And he says, well, do the things it takes to be a tennis pro. Why do a career that you think somebody else wants? If that's a career you want, do the things it takes to be a tennis pro. And so I was off and running with that support, because everybody's got to live their own life then. And one of the things that he told me was, teach every lesson as though you were paying for it, and you'll never give a bad lesson because you put a lot of investment in them. Being a tennis pro is probably the second best thing in the world, behind being a dad. And Pat talked about this. I'm very thankful for my children, Noah and Reese, who played a lot of tennis and soccer, and they're really, really, really amazing kids. Noah's 17. He's graduating next month, and he's going to go. He signed a letter of intent to play for Gardner-Webb soccer. So we're excited to see that next stage. Reese is in 9th grade, and she plays tennis and soccer, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for them. But they don't know it, but every time that we go to play tennis together, ask me to go play tennis together, I've got the biggest smile every time I walk on the court, because that's what I always wanted, was to be out there with them. So many other people to thank. The first person that ever gave me a job in the tennis business was this woman named Jan Broom, and she ran a public facility in High Point, North Carolina. And I remember I sold my first lesson package, and the woman wrote me a check for this, and I was like, you have arrived, Todd. I was 19. You were doing it, man. 5 lessons for $60, 1 hour lessons. 1 hour for all 5. I'm like, man, $12 an hour, man. Come on, you're piling this money on here pretty quick. So, but then I was like, at 19, you're kind of like, somebody's going to pay me to teach them. Somebody's going to want to know what's in my head. And I'm sure they were just all amazing lessons at that age. I'm sure. Fritz Earl, he was at Carmel, and he's the one that hired me there. Fritz has been a great mentor. He was one of the first original 17 Master Pros in the USPTA. He was a student athlete at UCLA. He was a student assistant for John Wooden on the basketball team. He was All-American on the tennis team, clinical hypnotherapist, professional photographer, and he retired, and I got to follow him at Carmel. So those are big shoes to fill. And Jim Demos is here. I got to see him again. I heard Jim when I was at Carmel. We had a really good time there. But Fritz has been a great guy, and he's always kept following me. Fred Burdick was one of the first people that I met when I went to a conference. And it's too bad he's not here because I love this story. So the first conference I went to, I got my certification in '97, and then we went to Hilton Head, I think in November of that year. And they had a dinner, and it was like the opening night dinner. If you got there in time, you got this really nice cable knit sweater vest, you know. And I went to dinner somewhere else and showed up, and I was like, oh, Fred, hey, I'm Todd. I'm new in the association. I was like, hey, can I get the vest? He goes, no, you're late. And that was it. I didn't get it. He was like there, and so I kind of picked him, but I got it later. But he kind of was trying to prove a point to me, young tennis pro. So. Pat Whitworth, he's been a really great friend. You guys do not understand what the division would be like without him. You really don't. I mean, he's fantastic. I go to these ex-com meetings and world conferences, and I see they've got a lot of great executive directors from other divisions, but they all call him. They all call him and ask him how to do this, how to do that, and he is selfless in that, and he bleeds USPTA, and he's been a great friend. I'm probably overhearing about Disney, but other than that, I'm pretty good on things from Pat. You know, he always is asking about my kids and everything. I've got a lot of great advice from people like Tom McGraw, Bill Phillips, Mark McMahon, Tom Douglas, Dave Dvorak, some moderately good advice from Tom Parks, Ken Andriano, sorry Tom, and Kevin Theos, and then a lot of other great friends and colleagues. Jeff Hawes, who I've always found to be calm and cool and collected, and I won't go through the whole story right now, but he was tough as nails when he needed to be with the association, and I've always looked up to that. He's a good, true friend. And then my friend Bolgar, and my Romanian friend. I've got so many good memories with him and so many more to come, and most of those can never be talked about. So we're good on those. And then Bill Riddle. I probably traveled with him more than anybody else. He and I have done a lot of speaking at different conventions. We've always roomed together, and so if I look a little dreary-eyed today, it's because I roomed with him last night. And it sounded like he was trying to start a chainsaw most of the night from inside the room in there, and kind of woke me up at 5:30, and I told him it's because I was thinking about the speech, but yeah, it was a freight train next door. So I would be remiss not to tell you about one of my favorite stories about him. So Bill and I are in California, and we're in Malibu area, and we're speaking at a conference, and then we go out, we're walking around or driving around UCLA, and it's 11:30 maybe at night, 11:45, and he goes, dude, come over there, I'm gonna go in there. It's a donut place. I gotta go in there. So he goes in there, I sit in the car, he comes out with the last 2 donuts that the place has, and a carton of milk at 11:30 at night. Eats those on the way back to the hotel, go in the hotel, go to bed. You know, it's about 3 in the morning, I kind of wake up, and he's like sitting up in the bed. Oh. I said, what does it matter with you? He goes, that was not a good choice. That's at 3:30 in the morning, sir. But what's great about this, and you know, we've all gone through trials and tribulations and through our lives, and I've definitely had a few through there, but you know, it's like, I look at this room and I see friends everywhere I turn. And that's we all understand how hard this business is. We all understand the long hours that we spend out there. We all understand the parents and the other people at the club and things that you have to deal with. But we're all brothers and sisters in arms, and I really appreciate that because I just really feel like a lot of friends in here. So I'm going to take a little bit more than my 5 minutes. So a couple things in my career, I've kind of had some remember when moments. My first was going to Hilton Head and meeting all the great leaders and big wigs of my time, and then finally I was thinking, yeah, this is really what I want to do. I want to be around these people. Being tested by Jack Justice. Everybody remember Jack Justice? Back then, when I got tested in '97, one of the things that you had to tick off was you had to say the student's name 7 times, somewhere during the 25-minute lesson. And about 90 seconds in, Jack goes, Todd, you got the name. You're good on the name. I was just burning this woman's name. He goes, you're good on the name. Well, I just want to make sure I got it down because we got her name covered. My first board meeting as a proxy for the North Carolina president who couldn't show up. That was probably my 2nd year in the association. I went to Nashville, and Tommy Wade was the president at the time. And if any of y'all know Tommy Wade, you know it was an interesting meeting for my first one. And I had mild consideration. Maybe this tennis thing wasn't what I wanted. I'm just kidding. But it was a great meeting. But that was trumped by rooming with Jimbo Hobson that night. And luckily we had a door between the bedrooms and the front. I slept on the sofa so I could make it through the night there. The World Conference in Monterey, California, and that was one of the amazing, and the people in the room that were there. This place called Little Napoli. Jeff, you remember this place, and Pat, and others. This place was in Carmel by the sea, and we had a room that was down like a little walkway, and it was just, I can't even describe it. It was one of the best nights. The whole team, it was just such a good thing to be there with friends, and it was just an amazing experience. At Carmel Country Club, we hosted 2 Southern Division conventions at my club, and that was great. We were so proud to show off the club and to bring in all of our friends there for 3 days. And Ken has knocked it out 2 years in a row here, and I really appreciate what he's done for the association. Winning Pro of the Year in 1999, I was only 2 years in the thing for North Carolina. I don't think anybody else ran that year, but I'm not counting names in that. I submitted and did that. And one of the best things was I've been fortunate to win the Fred Burdick Pride of the South twice, which is really an honor. Earning my master's professional certification, that took me 20 years to get that. And so if you're a master pro and you're in this room, if you would stand and share that, I would appreciate that. So if you're a master pro, please stand. If that's a goal of yours, any of these people that just stood up would be happy to help you get to there. I know it's been a great thing for me. So I got on the board, joined in 97, it's 2023. So I counted last night of the 26 years I've been in the association, I've been on the Southern Board in some capacity for 21. From 2001 to 2023, my son was born in 05, I took off 06 and 07. My daughter was born in 07, and I came back on the board in 08. So, top that. 21 years. 4 as president, 6 as past president, so that was the majority of that. All the great ex-con meetings in Orlando. But one of the greatest gifts that tennis has given to me is the ability to connect with people. I've always said it's the vehicle that gets me in front of people to be able to do that. And you don't know what people are going through when they walk on your court, so it's not your job to tell them to shape up. It's your job to put tennis in front of them and to give them that to help change what's going on with them. And I don't take it lightly that we get to influence people and their kids and the adults and everything. So tennis is a lot like life. Whenever you say you set yourself up for a winning shot, you have to execute. Whenever you set yourself up in life, you got to execute. I say all the time, you got what you want, now what? You got the sitter you were looking for, you got the overhead that you were looking for, now what? So I would say that to you in life. You got what you want now what? Now what's next? What's the next step? How do I execute with that? Or when you're looking at something that looks tempting cross court, I think I could coach you on that if I go for there. But it probably is not yours. I say all the time, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because I can do something doesn't mean I should. Just because I think I'm going to go after that ball, then I probably should. And that life lesson's kind of there too. When your students show up for a lesson on court, they want your best and they deserve your best out there. How can you beat someone that never misses? How can you beat someone that never gives up in life, never gives up on a tennis court? You don't, right? You don't. I think Vince Lombardi said we didn't lose the game, we just ran out of time, right? We're not giving up on winning here. And somebody once said to me a long time ago, you don't know the difference until you know the difference. When you give that gift to your students, you see the light bulb come on over their head. When I chose tennis, I knew immediately the difference between having a job and having a career. And that light bulb's been shining bright for the last 26 years. Surround yourself with good people. Ask the advice of those that have been there, done that, and do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. You need these people because I could not have gotten here without my friends and my family and colleagues lifting me up. I didn't really get it until now, but life is really about the journey. And I kind of feel that right now, not the destination. Lastly, being inducted into the Hall of Fame is an absolute true honor. And although it means to me that you've accomplished a lot in your life and it's the pinnacle of your career, I feel like the best is yet to come for me. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the future. Thank you.